So if you've been following my channel recently, you'll probably be expecting this video. And well, I've been reluctant to post a new video because I was not able to meet my commitment of completing the antique mantle as I had planned on. So this is I guess I have half a video. So this is the I have filmed up to the point that it's been left completed, and just thought I'd show that so that at least you're not being left, hanging on. And because I'm currently quite busy with a new project which pays the bills, which is great, fantastic. But unfortunately, I've had to put this other project on the side for now till I get a window of opportunity, which will be coming soon. It's not going to be that long, but in the meantime, this is where I'm at. So yeah, it's just the the realities of life. You can't always do things when you want to and how you want to, but you have to meet your commitments, which is currently what I'm engaged with. So as you can see, underneath this very dusty cloth here is the mantle bridge sitting waiting to be worked on, and this is what it looks like when the shop isn't clean. So again, I just wanted to thank everybody for watching, and hope you can get some information on the restoration or the repair of this antique mantle. So hope you enjoy the following video. Thanks. In the last video, I was removing the paint on this bridge, and I know that in the past I had spoken about not using chemicals to remove the paint, and unfortunately I've had to backtrack on that, and I came up with up against a situation where the paint just was not flaking off. And so short of leaving it out for another winter, the only other solution was to actually use a chemical stripper. So what I've ended up doing was I ended up using this low VOC 3M product, so it doesn't produce harmful fumes. It's a gel stripper, and it works very well. It's slow acting, but it is safe, which is a nice attribute. And so what I ended up doing was I just use a bamboo skewer, and I just open up the end with a knife to fray the fibers, and then it acts like a little stiff bristled brush, and I use that for getting right into the pores without having to use metal tools, because what I was having a problem with was because the paint was so well bonded, unless I was willing to remove the original finish underneath of stone and gouge in with the chisel, there was really no way that the paint was going to release. So at least with this way, I'm just removing the paint out of the pores of the stone and exposing what is beneath. And I'm discovering that there's a lot of soot and original staining that wherever the paint was still remaining. And had I been using just a chisel alone to flake the paint off, I would have had to remove that as well, because this was so bonded to the paint. But it's so this black is actually what the mantle would have been covered with originally, and it's possible that this mantle went through a fire. I mean, you think about what France went through over the centuries, it's more than possible that this mantle came from a burnt out structure. And it's entirely possible that this was exposed to some kind of a quick smoky fire. So it may have not made the blackness may have not even come from average use. It's there's a lot unknown about the piece, but one's imagination can kind of run away with itself, trying to imagine the circumstances of what this the conditions this piece has been under over the centuries. So, yeah, I ended up having to contradict myself and resort to using chemicals. I'm not a big fan of using chemicals. Normally, I wouldn't recommend this, but for this situation, to preserve the original finish, what is left of it. And so again, this is it's always a complex situation when I thought that this whole piece had been completely cleaned in the past in the heavy soot staining, and it's possible that there was a lot of candle wax deposits, on the top surface, or it's really hard to say, but it's not uncommon for there to be a lot of wax deposits in the top of the shelf, and that creates an interesting and unique situation. So if somebody was wanting to paint this, of course you'd have to somehow remove that heavy, oily, waxy stain. So I'm just putting on some the paint stripper, onto some of the really troubled areas. This area gave me a lot of trouble trying to get it flake the paint off, and this was actually the spot that I decided to change my tactic, because it was just so heavily bonded to the stone and into all the little pores. So I'm letting this soak in, and while that's doing its job, I just thought I would discuss some indicators, things to watch for. If you're looking to try to identify and assess the authenticity of a piece, and these are some of the interesting features, things to watch for. Thankfully, this piece was not fully finished, in the sense that there was some tool marks left behind, which help us to identify the fact that it actually was, in fact, made by hand. And this is one of the indicators right here, is the way that these chisel marks in this loose draft that then finishes off into a cove. The way they came in on these marks would have been made by the corner of a draft chisel, as they came in on a slight angle, and not terribly well executed, but nevertheless, it's a rustic piece. It was always intended to be a rustic piece, and I guess that's why they didn't fuss about things like that. But it's fun to think that these marks, these chisel marks, were made some 250 years ago in this piece, which is my guesstimate about how old this piece is. But it's these are some of the things to watch for if you're looking to identify the age of a piece, because you won't see that in modern techniques if it's well finished, because they'll use such things as a bullnose or a gouge with a pneumatic hammer, in which case then this cove will be consistent right through, and you'll see a consistent tool marks all the way through. Some of the other indicators are These are, I believe, to be residual stun marks from punching off the waste. I've shown you the techniques of punching off waste using a punch or a point. This is an ancient technique that goes back probably since the beginning of stone cutting, of removing protrusions or surplus waste. We call it waste. The stuff that needs to be removed. So in the process of stone cutting, you form your drafts around your margins. You pitch the bulk of the waste off once you've got all of your drafts in, and then whatever is left behind, you've got the choice of you can either go through with your draft chisel and remove it, or you can punch it off. And punching is much more efficient and controlled, and that's why it's a preferred technique. I'll go into further details, and I'll actually in the future demonstrate some of these techniques if you're not familiar. If you are, there's probably other channels out there that are better at showing and teaching these techniques. I'm not a natural teacher, but I am passionate about what I do, and I hope that comes through in the way that I discuss these things. And another indication is this, what we call a Dutchman repair, even though it's probably not a politically correct term these days. Sorry if you're Dutch and you find it offensive. I don't know who came up with the term, but it's I have to look up and see if there's any other more appropriate ways of discussing that type of repair. But it's a pieced-in section, and it appears to me to be a different type of limestone. It's still an oolitic limestone, but I believe, based on the grain, it's most likely a coarse Bath limestone. From what I'm familiar with, I have worked with this grade of Bath limestone, and Bath limestone comes from a part of England, and it's a famous soft oolitic limestone, favored for its qualities. So, and it's a fairly good match. As you can see, color-wise, it's a perfect match. Texture-wise, it's not quite the same. That's why it shows slightly different, but it's not a terribly unsuccessful repair, even though it's probably epoxied in. What I'll do is I'll just, touch it up with a bit of plaster, and I'll leave that be. So in my next video, I think I talked about this hole in the center of the bridge, and I've removed the epoxy that was in there before, and I discovered that there was a oak plug inserted. So turns out that this was some kind of a fastener, which means that the best theory I can come up with was this mantle was probably cladded with some kind of possibly a marble or wood cladding, and that's why they drilled the holes in the bridge and the legs with the oak plugs. So it's a very interesting idea that this was possibly at one time actually cladded with something, as the styles had changed through the centuries. So yeah, it's interesting when you peel back the layers of history. So I'm kind of glad that I pulled out that epoxy to discover what this hole was there for. An interesting bit of information. So as you can see, I've got the pinhole or the drill hole filled, and I think it's toning in nicely. It's wet right now, so what I'm doing is I'm wetting this down with water. I'm trying to pull the stains from beneath out to the surface to help kind of blend in some of my patches. And as you can see, from the dark staining, it is working, because this dark stain here is the stain that gets trapped in and around the patch as it's pulled out, and then I'll scrub that off with a rub stone and blend it in. But I'm trying to get the just balance everything out. and it is slowly working. So it's and then whatever still needs to be toned in afterwards, then I'll take care of that. But it's working out nicely. This is the kind of stage where everything just kind of slows down, and you refine things very carefully and very slowly. But it's definitely getting close now. I'm quite pleased with the level that it's at right now. I think that it's still is unmistakably an antique, but it's within an acceptable range, in my opinion. Some people might want it cleaner, but I think that it's part of the authenticity of it, trying to preserve as much of that as possible. A couple of days ago, I got this graft piece glued on with polyester resin, which is I think I discussed that earlier. So it's working out, and I've plastered the surface, the joint, and the surface, and it's a little light, but I'll use the same technique as on the upper part up here to help pull out as much staining as possible to help tint that, and then balance it out with a final stain. And I'm also filling in all the divots and the chips and the scratches. And there's actually there's a long old crack that runs through here. It must have been very hot that caused that, but it seems to be stable, so it's I don't think it's an issue. You can barely even see it across most of the bridge. It is there. I think right there you can see it. Actually, you can see it better on the video on the camera than you can with the naked eye. And there's this gouge. I may stain that a little bit, make it less obvious, but the idea is just to make it visually appealing. So all these patches, they're all reversible. So because it's just plaster, it doesn't damage or harm the stone in any way, and it can be uh, wetted down, and then scrubbed out with a brush, and restored back to its original fabric, which is always the idea. But I think that it's coming along nicely. But that's just the first half. Tune in next time for the big reveal.